All right, welcome back to the morning show right here on ETV. Can you believe it? We're almost in the time where we're wrapping up the show on this Tuesday edition of the show. If you've just joined us, a very good morning to you. It's so good to have you joining us on Tuesday, the 6th of February. Right now, I've got a very special guest who's not only an accomplished entrepreneur, but also a leading figure in understanding the power of branding. Joining us is Ancillar Nombewu, who is the founder of Ancillar Media, a seasoned podcaster, a lady that's just doing some phenomenal stuff and has done some phenomenal things. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. Ancillar, thank you so much for joining us on the morning show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm excited about this conversation because I think on one end, before we talk about all of this, it's your journey. You've been passionately devoted towards building your brand and, growing as a person and celebrating other people that are growing as people and their individual brands. Where did this love for branding come from? I mean, the most branding I was doing is wanting to wear a nice brand, but you took it to a whole other level.
I never knew that we're all brands. Like, as long as you're a human being walking the earth, you're a brand, because when you're not in the room, people have perceptions about you, people say stuff about you. When we die, people stand on podiums and talk about what kind of a person we were.
I've never considered a brand like that.
We're all brands in our individual lives. So it's been critical for me to think more deeply about it. So I started, like you, doing interviews in the world of journalism, doing business and finance. And throughout that journey, I got to interview so many incredible young entrepreneurs who always said to me, listen, this is great, but I can't tell my story. I don't know what part of my story to tell. I don't know how to communicate it. Can you help me? Can you help me? And I found that there was such a huge gap in the market for affordable Black-owned PR businesses that cater for small business. So that's why I started Ancillar Media with the dream to walk across the continent, across the globe, and see tall buildings like this with brands that I helped build. So that's been very critical for me in my journey.
That is phenomenal. I mean, to even imagine those small businesses having the opportunity to grow as big as what that PR work would be able to do for them is something that in another lifetime we wouldn't have even thought is possible. But the concept of branding is a very vast topic. I mean, you've just mentioned it from, what people say when you're not in the room and how they speak about you as your brand, but somebody else might say how your social media looks is speaking about the brand that you are, or what it doesn't say, what do you think are some of those personal brand elements that help an entrepreneur to tell their story? Like you're rightfully saying, when someone is saying, I really don't know how to go about this, what do you think are some of those elements that one can look out for in telling the story of their brand?
I think the most important thing is just being authentic. Just be yourself and be honest about who you are, because people love honesty. We can't all be the same kind of person because we're not the same kind of person. So I can't be copying what Nomzamo is doing because we're different personalities, for example. So you have to be authentically yourself. That's number one. Number two, you just need to be visible, right? And be able to tell the story. Branding is not what you tell people you are, it's what people say you are. So you have to be very good at listening to what other people are saying about you, what your customers are saying about you, what the people you service are saying about you, because that's your brand. Think about Nike, for example. They've done so well because they are a brand. And if you just say just do it, even if there's so many sporting apparel brands out there, when somebody says just do it, you already know what they're talking about with that check of theirs. You already know what they're talking about. Think about the incredible work Nando's is doing in their branding, adding that all humor and fun into their marketing strategies. That's branding. When you think Nando's, you think fun. You think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get sassy and spicy. So you have to listen and also walk the talk. Whatever you say you'll do, make sure that you do.
With what you're saying, I relate with it so much, but at the same time, I can see how smaller businesses would think, oh my goodness, this branding thing, it's for those guys in like big offices or people that's got a car that's even driving around. But I want to take a small case study, and I maybe want you to help navigate us through this. There's a gentleman, he's called the chairperson. He sells acha on the side of the roads in Johannesburg, and he always has like life lessons. If you buy a container from him, he's going to give you a life lesson. He's always suited up, and everybody loves the chairperson. He's been on radio, and when you think chairperson, if you go to his corner, you already know what to anticipate. Could this mean that it's possible for one to brand even when they're that small, to selling a tub of acha, to selling magwenya on the side of the road, to having a spaza shop? Would that be something that applies there as well?
Of course, you can definitely do that. Like I said, even if you're not in the world of business, even if you're going to school right now, even if you're a teacher, you are a brand. So you have to always be very conscious about how you walk in the world. So if you're a small business, for example, studies have found that 20%, you get 20% higher revenue if you've got a strong brand. And more than that, what makes business is customer loyalty, right? And you want to get customers and be able to retain them. Studies have also found that you get 23% more customer loyalty if you've got a brand that people like. And what you're talking about with the chairman that you're talking about, what he's done is to be able to appeal to emotions. We're all emotional beings. We're all buying from brands that we feel connected to, feel attached to. And now with Gen Z really pushing the buying power and the story in the world right now, they care about that more. They care about sustainability, they care about stories, they want to see themselves within brands. So even if you're a small brand selling amagwinya on the side of the street, you need to think about, how am I appealing to people emotionally? What am I saying to them? How do I make them feel when they look at me and they buy from me? What kind of story am I telling? You know, because think about somebody who is, for example, at Starbucks selling coffee. You're literally talking to people every day. Maybe they've got terrible morning, they've got stress, they're under debt, but they know, that barista at Starbucks, when I go there, they always make me smile and I always get a good mood. Let me just go and get that coffee. That's a brand from somebody who's just selling coffee and employed in a company. So whatever you do, be intentional about how you want to make people feel, and money and business and strategy and all of that will just fall into place
after that. You know, you're saying something so important. You're talking about be intentional in terms of what you want to do. So now I'm going, okay, now you're telling me I must have a brand, even as Khosi, just as a person, without the business. And I must think about the type of brand I want it to be and how people will speak about it and feel about it. But now come in the conversation of vision boards. Now I'm saying, okay, I want to be the next Shomla Dandala meets Trevor Noah, you know what I'm talking about. And now you're saying that's where the vision board comes in, to be able to translate what you have in your mind, put it down, see it, and put it into action. Tell us more about this.
Vision boards are so critical. I've seen it play in my own life. When I first started my business, I always thought, man, I'm just great. Things will fall into place. And then I saw that my business wasn't growing as fast as I would have liked for it to grow, because there wasn't intentionality behind it. Until I started vision boarding. What vision boarding really helps with is helping you strategize. I realized that I was able to see loopholes that were there in my business and the reasons why we're not growing. And then I was able to put strategies. And with a vision board, you see it every single day, every single morning. And when you have a good vision board, you are able to take something that you want to achieve over a 12-month period and break it down to what you're going to do every single day, to what you're going to do every single week, to quarterly updates. So you're able to see really if you are progressing or not, if you need to change your strategy or not. So it's a really great tool towards growth and sustainability for businesses. I'll advise everybody to really consider vision boarding for their business.
Breaking it down slightly before we wrap up the conversation, every time I think vision board, all that comes to my mind is a piece of paper with cut out pieces of that's the person, that's the car, that's the house, and it almost ends there. But now you are double clicking further and you're saying, okay, but break it down of what that looks like. What are those things that separate just having a piece of paper, cardboard that I stick behind my door with pictures of one day that's my dream house, that's my dream car, and now breaking it down to something that I can actually do briefly, so before we run out of time?
So very quickly, it's important to differentiate between a mission and a vision. A mission is what you want to achieve throughout your life. For example, I want to live up to my name, Ancillar, and aid to achieving. Every single thing I do needs to help other people achieve. So that's the mission. I can't put all of that and say I'm going to do it in 1 year. So then I have to look at what steps I'll take that will help me live to my mission. So it's important to just break down the goals that you have and then get an accountability partner to help you reach those goals, because life gets tough and you get kicked and you know you're behind, and it's important to get somebody who can say, kudos, you've got it, you can keep going. And when you've done that, it's also important to self-lead and self-check and look at were these goals smart, were they realistic, were they achievable over a 1 year period, because sometimes people put 5 years worth of goals on a 1-year vision board. You can't achieve stuff that you wanted to achieve, you should achieve in 5 years in 1 year. So you have to break them down and be kind to yourself and say, listen, I can't get a house this year, but what I can do is to clear my debt and increase my credit score so that in the next 24 months, I can be able to apply for a bond and qualify for a bond. Because your mission in 5 years could be to get a house, but where are you today? So it's important to always going back and do the smaller steps, the smallest thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who had on her vision board that she has this picture of her graduating from AFDA and all of that. Girl hasn't even applied. I'm like, you see, and then you're going to feel like you didn't achieve, but you didn't even apply. And so break it down and start
simple ways.
Simple things.
Because I think that when we don't break it down, that's where we can feel like we never get to achieve the things that we dream of and feel like we're missing out. But Ancillar, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Man, I'm so excited. I think there's a lot of us that's listening to the conversation going, yo, I must go home and go write it down and just revisit our vision. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it. Such a wonderful conversation with Ancillar Nombewu joining us right here on The Morning Show. We've gained valuable insights into the world of branding and the transformative power of vision boards for entrepreneurs alike. I actually remember there's a scripture that says, write the vision, make it plain, so those that see it can run with it when they see it. So you should write your vision and run with it. Stay with us.